You're listening to the Renegade Blitz, the best podcast for Steelers fans by Steelers fans. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. Read articles on RenegadeBlitz.com, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app.
And welcome back to the Renegade Blitz podcast. I'm Ty Polk with Chris Ward and the new Pittsburgh Couriers, Brandon Walker. Of course, Chris Ward also a part of Steelers now on a pinch hitter basis, but say you're still in the game, buddy. And meanwhile, me, I'm just a bum. and speaking of it, this is probably something that a lot of Steelers fans would call the team right now, but that's neither here nor there. Steelers lost 35-13 to the Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown had 3 touchdowns. Yay for my fantasy team. Boo for being someone that's namely interested in the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Brandon, we thought for a second it was the Canada wet off with that. They finally decided after 15 million jet sweeps, I guess it was like the setup in NCAA football 14. Everyone knew that they were going to do that jet sweep around the corner. What they didn't expect was for Permante's special, is what I like to call it, from Chase Claypool.
Yeah, that was their only highlight for the day. Like,
it really was.
This team's terrible, bro. Like, they need to fire him. They need to get rid of him. I mean, Najee Harris is just turned into Trent Richardson. Kenny Pickett is not all the. I'm sorry. I don't think he's it. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't think he's going to be that good of a quarterback. Like I said, he's like, I don't trust people that go to college for 6 years and think they're gonna be good. When has that ever panned out?
And here's something that's crazy: that Jalen Hurts is actually younger than him. So, like you said, 6 years, or he was in college like 5 years. That tells you a lot. Jalen Hurts, how he's developed and everything. Maybe if Pickett gets a better quarterback or a better coach, quarterback coach help too, I guess. But Mike Sullivan's not, I guess, not too bad. But this is a really bad coach team right now. You look at all those penalties, pre-snap penalties.
Yes.
Now that's like mind-boggling how sloppy they looked yesterday, and
they couldn't even line up correctly, even on kickoffs.
Yeah,
this team doesn't know where an RPO is, and that's supposed to be the future of the league in terms of how you get a quarterback easy throws. You have one read, and they make that read. The Eagles with Jalen Hurts probably has, outside of Lamar Jackson, the next prototype in terms of an RPO, and I don't know. I'm willing to give it time with that because, again, this franchise has never ran an RPO to save its life. I barely think it wrote a sprint right option. Maybe outside of the game winner against Jacksonville with Roethlisberger, that was probably the closest that you could call a sprint right option for this team. Right. But man, this is what it is. Steelers fans have never felt this way before. It's been a long time since this franchise has openly said, yeah, we're not good right now. There was always a shadow of a doubt in which this team had something, like maybe a mini winning streak towards the end of the season to get themselves to 500 or something like that. It feels like the lid is off in terms of that safety blanket in which this team somehow, some way finds a way to become at least a halfway decent football team. And while
the safety was Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, that really was. I think that's really the case right now. The jury, amazingly, is still out because look at the second half of the season. Let's take a look at that real quick. They still have the rest of the NFC South, and Atlanta, for all of their warts, for all of the warts in the NFC South, Atlanta somehow, with Marcus Mariota at quarterback, is at the top of the division right now.
Yeah.
It's Mariota. That could have been the guy in Pittsburgh. And honestly, that was the guy who I wanted. You guys seen me over the last year. I said, Mariota. We want Mariota.
the stats that I did see when I was writing about it, like he wasn't doing all that great as far as like I haven't really watched a lot of Falcons football this year, but yeah, I don't know. Like, the Steelers, like you mentioned the lid and stuff. That was what Tomlin's big saying after the game is like we just didn't keep a lid on it. And man, that secondary looked rough. Like Eagles receivers were just running, open in the field. Even like when they had drops, like AJ Brown had a rare drop. He had 3 touchdowns on the day, and then he had that 43-yarder. So he almost had a Claypool like game in 2020 when the Eagles. They just had no answer. Witherspoon, he's been a real disappointment. Minka Fitzpatrick on the first touchdown. I thought that play was going to be an interception by Minka, and he just completely mistimed that.
He got mistimed it, and like he just roughed the ball from him. It seemed like the Steelers have been exposed. Like this used to never happen. Like they were doing the electric slide.
Yeah,
that it was like really. I was like the last time they was doing the electric slide. You know what happened that year? And I don't want to just no.
PG it.
They won the Super Bowl.
the Eagles. I don't remember them pulling off the electric slide.
They did it against the Bears.
Okay,
because I read it about it the next week. Remember that, Chris? I was like so heated. Because my family members were actually there to see it with us, watching the Bears and the Eagles.
Okay, now I remember it because I remember you said you had family members that were Bears fans and everything. But yeah,
man, you have a multicultural family.
It just seems like, but it just seems like there is no real hope for the Steelers this year. Even with the schedule, who? Can Kenny Pickett beat any of them? The way he's playing?
Maybe the Raiders on Christmas Eve. Maybe the Carolina. Even New Orleans, I think, has a pretty good defense. So, like, even that game's kind of like there's no game on the rest of their schedule. Like, oh yeah, the Steelers definitely gonna win.
Yeah.
They have winnable
games. Carolina isn't a possibility, but if you see what those two offenses, Atlanta and Carolina, did yesterday. It suddenly takes that possibility and throws that out the window as well, because
it's like
at the very least that I was sitting there, even with PJ Walker, shout out to the XFL. It's coming back, by the way. And he threw a dime to DJ Moore. Pat Mahomes was saying it was the best throw he's seen all year.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes, who probably at some point later in this season will replicate that.
Yeah, he probably would, but still, there's not what can we talk about that's good? Like their offensive line stinks.
Yeah,
Najee Harris stinks. Kenny Pickett stinks. Anybody besides Pickens at wide receiver stinks.
Yeah, man. We were saying all year the offensive line, like people were saying,
Hold up, I wanted to make sure that got answered.
I didn't know he's doing well, but he has to stay healthy.
Who's that?
Pat Freiermuth.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear the part. But offensive line. Like I remember you saying a couple weeks ago, Brandon, about the offensive line. You're like, I don't care about what the metrics say. This offensive line is not good, and like that's what I like, especially run blocking. I guess they're better in pass blocking, but not yesterday. That was a completely, train wreck there.
This is disrespectful. Like they can't punt. I guess the kicker had a pretty decent day. Whoever was the kicker for the Steelers,
the kicker from Wake Forest, who was last year in the ACC championship game with Pickett. So yeah, I mean,
and he was in the preseason.
He was the most accurate kicker in Wake Forest history. Whatever you hear, most accurate. So, but not a good leg. I'm just like, all right, just get him inside the 40, get him inside the 40-yard range and something like that, and he'll be fine. As far as I'm concerned, for a guy that was just coming off the practice squad, well done for him.
Well done for him.
I mean, you want to say this? We're talking about the running backs. Najee Harris, you've seen the meme on Facebook, and I'm pretty sure it's matriculated onto Twitter. Can you believe that he did not pick up a first down? He just needed 3 yards. If he just runs forward, if he farts and continues running, he's got the first down. He doesn't have to jitterbug. He doesn't have to try to undress a defender out there. You just have to go forward. And that strikes me right now as it's one thing. It's either you're not good or you're doing too much. And I'm hoping that it's the latter, but performances like that, at one point, he had no rushing yards.
You're right.
Through 2 quarters, I believe. That's not in a first round running back. That's not a second round running back. That's not a third. That's not a fourth. That's not a drafted running back. And then when I take a look at Jaylen Warren and I see a guy out there that in that same offensive line is fighting for every inch, showing some speed, plowing through a defender at 5'8". He's like Ray Rice. He's basically Ray Rice right now. And Najee Harris, I want him so bad to have that look where, at the very least, if he's not going to be Derrick Henry, can you be what's his freaking name, Eddie Lacy, who for a few seasons before he effectively ate himself out of the league was a solid running back. That's all I want. Yeah. I don't want Trent Richardson.
And that Alabama fact, when he was out, he had the best offensive line, the best team and everything. And we're just not seeing that burst, that speed. The one play yesterday, Warren just hit the hole, he just hit it, and we haven't seen that with Najee Harris. He had his longest rush of the year, 18-yarder. I think it was off a draw play. I don't know. I don't remember correctly.
Yeah, it was off a draw play.
Yeah. So it was 18 yards. I mean, that's a good run, but I mean, you're not getting 30 or 40 yards or 50 or explosive plays. That's what the Steelers, they don't get any. The Eagles had 4 explosive touchdowns in that game.
Yes.
The Steelers have none all year.
They have a 140-yard play all year. Nick, guess where it came from?
It was from whenever Mitch Trubisky threw it to Connor Hayward.
Yeah. Connor Hayward has your longest reception of the season, and he's what, an H-back?
Yeah, and that was a busted coverage too, because the one of the Tampa Bay linebackers was trying to call timeout. So,
and also one went offside. I think there was also a penalty.
Yeah, it was a free play. So I mean, it's just I just can't believe how the Steelers, they're dead last in points per game with 15. They have 4 touchdowns in their last 4 games. I mean, it's just if Tomlin doesn't get rid of Canada during the bye week, I don't know what you guys think. I know I put a poll out there saying do you think this Tom will fire Canada during the bye week? And I said, the option was yes or no. He's too stubborn, because that's the what I think is Tomlin doesn't want to admit that he made a mistake of hiring.
He doesn't want to admit his wrongs.
Yeah.
Hired the wrong offensive coordinator.
I think at this point,
running back in the first round.
I think at this point, most fans would probably applaud him if he realized it's not working out and he's got to let him go immediately at this point. But I don't know what it is. I'm not going to say living in his fears. I'm saying living in the I don't really know how to put it. It's just living in delusions, I guess, at this point.
You see,
this guy's not an NFL coordinator at any point. It's well done. You had a touchdown off the trick play, and I even got in on the fun on this very Twitter account where this is being hosted right now, and said Canada wet. But Brandon, pull up your drink right now. Pull it up. Pull it up and put it right into the camera. Put it right into it. Move your finger, and there you go. Canada dry.
Take a picture of that.
Let's count on it, but that's the offense right now. You badly need to trademark that before someone takes it, Brandon. Come on. There's sports trademarks out there. I know. Get a trademark lawyer. You work at a law office. Come on. But
how much does it cost?
Not much. Not much. If Chris Jericho is able to trademark everything under the sun, I think you can get one trademark. It's probably $30 or something. Look it up.
I'll look it up.
take it over to Pittsburgh Clothing Company and get yourself some royalties. But
yeah, but who knows?
What's the positive? Oh God!
At the end of the Pittsburgh Steeler history, the Canada Dry offense. This dude's terrible. Like, and I have not used not one curse word the entire time, and I'm just shocked.
Well, technically, if you want me to be honest with you at the beginning of this podcast, before we officially said "Welcome to the Renegade Blitz," you did curse, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, we can edit that out though.
Exactly.
Yeah, but still, this guy is horrible, terrible. He stinks. He sucks. He's god awful, and like, he's not. I wouldn't even have him coach Division II.
Nah, Chris, he could come see you up at Duquesne.
Yeah, right.
RMU, he could. I think he'd be a great offensive coordinator at RMU. I mean, that's another thing. I don't want to take him completely out of Division I. And there's some very good Division II and Division III schools out there, namely in our own backyard with Carnegie Mellon. So let's not demonize them and wish them that fate right now, because
he could be the inaugural head coach of Point Park football.
Yeah, right. Doesn't exist.
I mean, there are NAIA football teams, but I think Point Park's closer to Division III than we realize. But there's just so much that you could go. We could wax poetic about this offense all night, but we're not going to do that. The defense, we mentioned a little bit with. I was hyping up Akello Witherspoon so much in the offseason and leading up into training camp. That's gone to wayside.
And that's the thing. He's one of the best corners you got. He's a starting corner, and he got benched. They need a lot of people that need to be benched. You have a bunch of guys and Cam Hayward that's 38 years old and Minka Fitzpatrick and a bunch of scrubs. I guess Emmons kind of is scrubbish.
So what do you think? You think they should start trading some? Maybe a player, not about players. Like,
yeah.
Do you think they should trade Chase Claypool, or what are you gonna say?
People were actually saying that. I noticed that it was kind of like brought in by the fan personnel who I'm close to. Some of them reached out to the possibility of Cam Hayward being traded away, and my feeling with this is this: if he wants to go, you grant him. You let him go wherever he wants to go. You give him no restriction in terms of that. He basically has it. Pick a list, and we'll try to make the deal with him.
Like Miller did, last year.
Like who should we trade? Who should we trade?
Chase Claypool's stock is up right now, so it'd be a nice thing to do. I just don't think with the Steelers draft record with wide receivers, and plus in a league in which you can basically do it's similar to a running back, but it has way much higher stock, in which you can find a wide receiver out there that's pretty good. Instead of drafting them in round one like the Steelers did, they can go find a mid-rounder and just hope for less drops out of one, like a third rounder in Deontay Johnson, and you're hoping that you find a guy like Pickens out there, or Freiermuth, who was a second round pick. So yeah, there's a lot that you can do out there.
Who else should be on the trading block?
Really, I can't really think of anyone else out there. If you want to put your boy out there, you could, because at least he's being somewhat of a decent linebacker. Remember how we made fun of Mark Barron? He's now Mark Barron. He could probably be a money backer somewhere. But I don't know.
Probably could. I wasn't even talking about that. You think he's worth something though?
I'll put it to you like this: this league is always going to be in need of a dime backer that can at least. I know that everyone gets on linebackers coverage and something like that, but when you take a look at him, he's basically a bigger a bigger slot corner. I don't know, but I'm just throwing things out there. There's really no one else.
He didn't do much yesterday. Goodness gracious, he didn't screw up, but he didn't do. Then a lot of people didn't do not that much yesterday.
He still does. He's not worth that. No matter how good the people, he has done better. I'll give him that. He hasn't lived up to that. If you're a 10th overall pick, you got to make splash plays, and he hasn't done those.
Rudolph is a guy that we've been championing as well with that. You can't get. I wouldn't be surprised if Rudolph is traded away because it's bin time with him.
Yeah, like Rudolph needs to go. Claypool, Bush, Hayward.
I never would have thought heading into the season about talking about trading Cam Hayward, but that's just how.
But the trade deadline is such a crapshoot, and honestly, this should be. Trade deadline should be pushed back to the last possible bye week anyway.
That's what I think too.
Early. It's too early for this. It's always too early.
Yeah, but did you guys see that Kenny Pickett? He kind of got upset with the one reporter. So you think that it seems like overall, listen to the post game press conference with the players. Obviously 2-6, but you're kind of starting to sense that frustration mounting more now.
What do you think? I would be upset too if I was 2-6 and it didn't seem like number one, there wasn't a proper plan offensively out there, and defensively we couldn't at least at the very least hope and pray to God that our offense finally comes through like it's 20 whatever year. I don't care. 2019.
2017.
Yeah, 2019, where you're just hoping, where you're just like, all right, this defense is going to get a few splash plays to help out the offense and put them in short fields. At the very least, they're going to walk out of here with a field goal. Nothing's coming. Nothing's coming. So I don't know what.
It's bad, bro. Like they said, Kenny Pickett is now calling out their practice habits. That's not good. And your rookie quarterback calling out grown ass professional men. There you go. I said grown men about their practice habits. That ain't good. And then furthermore, do you think the players are actually trying to get him fired?
I think honestly, the way that everything sounds with it, Deontay Johnson said, you guys know what the problem is. I mean, if that's not basically saying like, yeah, this ain't it. I don't know what to tell you. So, I mean, nothing's gonna change offensively, even if Canada gets fired Thursday. The way that most pundits are trying to say it's gonna be Thursday. It's gonna be Thursday. It's gonna be Thursday.
Thursday? What's the point of firing him on Thursday?
Why? So they can get a full look at the entire offense over the course of the past week? I mean, you might if it's over, you're better off doing it tomorrow. If today wasn't your choice, tomorrow would be a really good number 2 option right now.
We all know that's not going to happen because
it's not.
They probably won't. Yeah, they're probably like.
What's going to change? What's going to change schematically with this team? His system, maybe with very minor tweaks, and people are going to think that's game calling, and no, they're still going to run the same concepts and all that stuff. The plays that he designed are still going to be there. It's too late in the game.
It is.
What's going to happen?
They don't run 86 jet sweeps no more. How about that?
That's about it. I mean, again, play calling is the only thing that's going to change. That's what I'm saying. In terms of concepts and everything, play design, nothing's going to change. Heck, who knows what they're going to do in terms of it with options of reading the field, because it's always a mystery with how an NFL offense is run. They might not. everyone's going like they'll make more plays over the middle of the field. Maybe there's more of it, but not really. I don't really expect much to change regardless.
And how are they going to run the ball better? Because their offensive line's not, built to run, run block and everything. And, for me, it all goes back to drafting. And, how are you going to draft a running back in the first round when you don't even have an offensive line for him to run behind?
Yeah, it's like you got to, like, giving up that, you know what? They told you just half-hearted, short-sighted decision is why they're at this point. And they should have saw it down the line when Ben retired. And you know what they're going to chalk this up to? They're going to chalk this the ownership. Everybody's going to chalk it up to, oh, we knew that this team was going to be a trying year, bro. We knew this team was trash. I said this team was trash in the all season. Smoking Jim came up here and said this team is trash.
Yeah.
Ty wanted to say this team.
I gave them a 6-11 record, sir. I knew what was going to happen. I was trying to be ahead of it in case they actually did something, and for a little bit it seemed like they might do something. But you could go back and look at the first episode during training camp or whatever, even after the schedule launch. I said 6-11.
Didn't I say that too?
No, yeah. You had it. I think you had it made in.
Chris was the most positive.
No, I had 7-10. I had them.
What did I say?
You said like 8-9.
No, I said about 6 and I said it's 6-11.
No, we're gonna go look through it now.
Huh?
I think you bumped it up to 8-9, 8-9. Because I remember
we had them not going to the playoffs with a losing record.
We all had them at a losing record. So I know I had 7-10 because I think I said 7-10 last year, and they were 9-7-1. So they've been on the trending downward since the late half of the 2020 season. We've been seeing this. It just offensively they've been so bad. It's just like I've been saying, like they're like a decade behind the rest of the league when it comes to like what the Eagles are. Like a decade, yeah.
No, they're about 15, 20 years behind, bro.
I mean, look at what the Eagles are doing. They're innovative and they believe in analytics. I'm not so like everything has to be analytics, but I mean it does play a part. I mean Howie Roseman's aggressive. He like when we had John on the podcast, they value the offensive line, the defensive line. That's how they feel like that's the core of their.
They've been doing that since Andy Reid. They've been doing that since the 2000s.
Yeah,
it's like
I don't even think
always draft a linement first round.
I don't think it's really anything. I don't think this team is really that far behind or anything like that. It's just not obviously playing to your strengths. You have at each level of the defense a high-end talent. You have to go out there and put them in position to make plays. Yes, it doesn't help that TJ Watt is hurt, and watch. When Watt comes back, we're suddenly going to sing a different tune because when you have a defensive player of the year out there, everyone has to be accounted for. Even if he's hurt, he still has to be accounted for out there. That's really the one hope this team has. In terms of offense, again, they have athletes. Claypool seems to have finally figured himself out over the last 3 weeks. There's always a point in which Najee Harris at least looks something like a first-round back at one point. There was a few runs where I was like, okay, is he finally going to figure something out here? And then he went back at least 5 weeks with whatever that was, whenever he just had to run forward instead of trying to jitterbug around the place. Kenny Pickett, look, that's more up to the Steelers. If you want to go and get a new quarterback next year in the draft or something like that with your top 5 pick, you go ahead and do that, and I won't question it. If you want to give him a full year and then whatever parts into next year and it doesn't work out and you work from there, fine. I knew this offense, even with play calling and that offensive line, wasn't going to be able to do much.
Look here, they need to build it up for a few years, and I showed you the person that they should draft in a couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, drafting a quarterback in the first round back-to-back years.
He's not till 2025.
No, I wasn't talking. I was talking about just in general. If they were to draft a quarterback in this year in the top 5, drafting a quarterback back-to-back years in the first round is not ideal at all. Like, I mean, look at the players that they could have got instead of Pickett if they didn't draft him.
Like, trust me, they'll give Pickett like 3 years. And I don't think it's going to work out to the advantage. And I showed you the person who they should draft.
For the record, Brandon is also a reporter on Nittany Sports Now, and he wants to, and I'll even answer it for you. He wants to go with Drew Allar, who is slated for a draft pick for being drafted in 2025 at least. And this is all fine and good, but I'm not going to crown a guy that, one, has barely, if not that, hasn't even played a game in college yet, and two,
he's played.
I remember being around here after the situation up in Penn State. They had a very good quarterback in the name of Christian Hackenberg, who looked really well until Bill O'Brien left. And you can't have me go with a quarterback like this. I'm just going to address this right now. I know this is Steelers podcast. Whenever you're in the meanwhile looking at your current head coach and going, I don't know if he's the one right now as well. So I'm not going to
Did I say that? I said that.
Well,
I put him in a.
You had the highest looked at article in Nittany Sports Now's Facebook page. You crowned that with me, and congratulations to you. That's well done, by the way. But at the same time, I'm not gonna, in the words of Denny Green, crown a guy right now.
When was the last good Penn State quarterback to go in the NFL? Like, that was actually good in the NFL.
Collins?
That's what I was thinking too.
Look, man, I'm not really into pedigrees with a quarterback because it's always a crapshoot. You can look up and down through many colleges' histories and find some not good quarterbacks that somehow went in the first round, and you can find quarterbacks that didn't look like much in college and somehow end up becoming the GOAT, like your fellow Big Ten team in Michigan and the guy that I will not name as well, because
well, like I said,
I was just thinking on top of my head. I was like, I'm thinking Penn State quarterback.
Kirk Cousins.
Ohio State, they have not produced a quarterback yet, ever.
Yeah, Ohio State doesn't.
Ever. I don't remember one.
They don't, I don't think. Like, maybe
I don't remember any. The best quarterback I think I've seen was Troy Smith.
Troy Smith won the 6th round of Baltimore.
Huh?
Troy Smith won the 6th round to Baltimore. He won a Heisman.
Yeah, and that's the best quarterback they've probably ever produced.
So what do you think about CJ Stroud?
He looks decent. He played decent. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. Like, somebody that's in the league who's going to be a problem, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
He plays just like his dad, but he's 6'4".
Wow.
And
like, Marvin Harrison was 6'2".
No, he was 6 foot.
6 foot?
Yeah. Wow. He was a small receiver. He has the same game, the same choppy steps, same route running, same amount of speed. I'm like,
Rand, what about that Penn State left tackle? I saw a clip on him. Like, when's he supposed to go in the draft?
He's going to go to the draft next year.
Oh, really?
I think.
Yeah,
I think so. That's a prime Steelers draft pick candidate.
Again, as I've said this a million times before, you're expecting a franchise that through all the turnover, even at GM and the few turnovers at coach, the one thing is they did not draft a left tackle in the first round since the 1950s. Do I want that to change? Especially
yes. You know what? It's time for. You know what? It's time for the Steelers to change. It really is. This is getting ridiculous. They try to keep going with the same crap, the year after year after year, and then the league has passed them by. And I know it sounds like a broken record, but change is good. The key is that GM, the assistant GM, Andy
Weidel.
Thank you. You need to change course of whatever you're doing. See what he did. See what made him successful in Philadelphia, Let's see what's making the Eagles successful right now, and do something.
Oh, by the way, did you see that Brandon Hunt had the blessed hands after the game?
Yeah. Javon Hargrave also, made a comment saying like they didn't believe me, or I think it was something along the lines, but God did, or something like that. And 3 Steeler players liked it. Was kind of like
there was other people that liked Kenny Pickett getting sacked.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, because the picture that Hargrave posted was Kenny Pickett getting sacked. I think Deontay Johnson was one, Marcus Allen, and Chukwu Okorafor, who's on the offensive line. So, I mean, I don't know what you guys think about that. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't really care.
I don't care, but it just shows it's a sign that this team is like their foundation is messed up. It ain't right.
I know that's the age.
Social media. Look, they have relationships with a guy, and plus, for the record, Chris, the entire thing with Javon Hargrave, that was a DJ Khaled song reference.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he posted it for, I mean, I don't know why he posted, but
because he got a sack against his former team, man.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, it's easy content, but in terms of that, I look at it and I go, it's just a pot stirrer story. There was the tweet that you found that was from a guy who I work with, enough said, who I still respect because, like all of us, he went to Point Park. It's just the name of the game right now. People got to look into something right now. Look, there's not a lot of happiness right now in Pittsburgh.
Well, I didn't think it was a good look either, but I mean, I wasn't really like I understand the social media, like these Steeler players, they know him because Hargrave used to play for them with the Steelers and everything. So like I understand that part and everything, but it is kind of just like ironic that Kenny Pickett's getting like crushed in the photo and like 3 players like it, but it's really not a big deal.
I mean, they could have there could have been there was at least 3 other photos they could have chose of him getting crushed. Right. I remember he got high watered, low bridged on one sack. Yeah. Dude just got murdered, and it's because credit to Philadelphia and the way that they decided to utilize a 4-3 out there. Man, I know they got a Riddick out there who's also a linebacker in there, but that's expected as the 5th rusher for them. The way that they figured out that 4-3, and so many other teams are doing that exact same way. Why? Right. Who cares about the linebackers? All it matters is the defensive line. And they used to run that 46 like everything. They don't really run that, but they still got a lot of those concepts out there. That's just a team that knows exactly what they want and what they get, and they go out and get it. And that's all I want from the Steelers in terms of it. Know what you want, commit to it, and go out and get it.
They used to.
Yeah.
But the thing is now,
maybe it's Colbert's drafting, and maybe we can properly see with Weidl and Omar Khan what they're going to do in the future. But as of right now, it just seems like this team looks like it's done. It's done. It's a wrap.
Yeah, man. Because we'll have to see on Pickett. Because I'm like, nobody was going to pick Pickett in the first 3 rounds except the Steelers.
I think they could have got. Here's the thing: with everything that went down, what they could have got Lindenbaum, the center, who Chris, I remember at first during last year was saying there's no way he was there, and lo and behold, he was there, and he went to the Ravens. Could they have picked him up in round 2? But here's the trade-off: they don't have another second-round pick, so they don't pick up Pickens, and they don't really have a wide receiver out there that's worth anything. You go to the 3rd round. Mark Robinson is still a project. Leal,
he's a 3rd rounder.
He might.
He wasn't a 3rd rounder. I think it was Austin. That was a 3rd rounder.
No, they had 2 3rd rounders, if I remember. I gotta look it up.
But Mark Robinson, I think, was a 7th rounder.
Okay, yeah, he was. I was wrong about that. So the 3rd round is what? Well, Austin's not even playing, and so we'll never know what he could be until next year. He could end up being exactly what they needed. It could be Tavon Austin II. His story is not written yet, so I'll give him that opportunity.
Lyle
could be a player.
Could be. He's hurt now.
They do have prospects on the defensive line. It's up to them to give them chances up there that could be promising. You got a 6'7" defensive lineman out there. Let's see what he's got at this point. In Loudermilk, who was drafted a year before. They have. It's now up to. It's one thing when you draft them. It's another thing when you develop them. You managed to develop Deontay Johnson when he doesn't have the drop C's and can find his feet inbounds into a solid wide receiver. So now it's up to you to bring up that pro development team and start running through these guys and also have them in tandem with your pro scouting team, with your amateur college scouting team. They got to do something out here, and it's got to be an organizational shift to the future for them. Because you say 10, 15 years, I'm a very generous person. I'm going to say they're 7 years back.
Yeah, I just threw a decade out there. This is the first thing that came to my mind. But I was going to imagine what you mentioned about the Eagles.
They're almost a decade back.
They have really good cornerbacks too. I was impressed, but what they've done with their secondary. Compared to the Steelers cornerbacks, I mean, it's unbelievable what they have at the receiver position too. Like what A.J. Brown was doing, they made that big trade for him, and I mean, it was just a complete mismatch.
Bradbury was available for the Steelers if they wanted him. He was an available cornerback with it, and yes, you could argue that he got a little bit away with being too grabby at times.
He did.
Darius Slay is a good corner as well. He was up in that football graveyard that is Detroit. Now people are actively seeing him do some really good things for Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And of course they got their safeties with Garner Johnson, who's out of New Orleans now. Philadelphia does this one thing that's not really a noble concept for the Steelers. They go out and get good talent in free agency. Their pro scouting, as I say it right there, is very much a very good aspect for them. And that's what you have to do. It can't just be drafting. This is not the early 2000s Steelers anymore. And they recognize that in the twilight of Ben Roethlisberger's career. And I hope that they're not trying to go back to that old way of thinking. Because if so, it's going to be a long decade.
It's going to be a long way. They need to just get some players. Not these half measures. Get yourself like you got Minka.
That's what they, I always like that process of, just building through the draft. But I mean, it's outdated now. Like you said, perfectly, Ty, about, they have to do what the Eagles are doing, go out and be aggressive in free agency. Like Culver, I like Culver and everything, but I mean, like you said, the twilight with Fitzpatrick, they didn't realize it till late. But with
I mean, don't get me wrong, Philadelphia still has the 6th overall pick in their back pocket right now. If you have high end talent that you can go out there and draft, they're probably going to be in line for a Super Bowl, and they have the 6th overall pick right now. Unless the Steelers help them out with losing to New Orleans. So they're going to have somewhere in that top 10, top 15. Maybe if they're lucky, they stay closer to the top 5. So they do draft players out there. They do find deals, and that's fine. You don't have to be Los Angeles where you're committed to F them picks. You can go out there and use your draft picks. Because at some point you got to build a team through somewhere.
Yeah, and you can't just don't go just don't go faking it. Like, get a real player, get some actual players. Mason Cole, James Daniels. I know you got Miles Jack. That's a solid pickup, but you got to have players. If you're gonna dig into free agency, pick up some players. Like.
That old, late 2000s and stuff, like where the Steelers have signed like one free agent, like that doesn't work anymore. Like, I don't like. Do you think Culver stuck around, like just like with Roethlisberger? Do you think they stuck around a little bit too long than what they? Because Culver even mentioned, he said that like he wanted to retire because like he even mentioned like the analytics part and stuff. Like maybe it's time for someone else to take.
Yeah, I thought he could have retired a few years. He hung on a couple years too late.
Yeah.
Because you could tell, like, the misses that they had, like Edmonds.
Trading up for Bush.
Trading up for Bush. Yeah, that was a sign that I was like, man, you
enter Green in the third round and you give him Pouncey's number. And,
Yeah. I feel like he could have left after 2020, and I would have been perfectly fine with his legacy because not that his legacy is really tarnished in any way, it just doesn't look good at the end.
Yeah, I try to say that too. Like I thought Colbert did a great job, obviously as the GM, but I mean,
he did a rolling rebuild with a quarterback and was able. I mean, people think it's going to be a rolling rebuild like it was through the midpoint after the final Super Bowl year for the Steelers with Roethlisberger. A rolling rebuild is not happening. That's not because you had a Hall of Fame quarterback who at the time was nearing the start of his powers truly as a quarterback in this league. There's nothing coming up in the ranks with that. It's got to be a complete tear. It's got to be
a wholesale purge.
It's got to be wholesale changes.
Canada.
Changes.
Canada. Who else? Bush.
I think defense.
Devin Bush.
I think
Devin Bush again. Cut him, sign him, and then cut him again.
I think defensively they have.
Deontay Johnson. Trade them. Get something for them. You got to build this down, basically almost down to the studs at this point.
I think
if they could get a first round draft pick for TJ Watt and maybe a second, I'd do it.
I don't want him to go through the same fate with his brother, but I think he still is the cornerstone towards any rebuild project for the Steelers.
How old is he?
I don't think that's
28.
By the time they get where they need to be, he's gonna be over 30 and broke down.
I think you can hold on to him for 2 years. What are you gonna do? If you're in that line of thinking, you're also trading away Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, get some people. You need to build it back to where, because you just need to just.
Like what the Bears are doing, they traded for they traded Roquan Smith to the Ravens.
But that's a true beginning of a rebuild right there. And what the Bengals kept Bates and Bell through all that stuff. You got to have some pieces.
Yeah, I don't think they should do
stuff. You can't trade the whole farm away there. You have to have some pieces that are back there as veteran influences, and plus. I think TJ Watt's game is much like his brother in which it can stay a while. It might not be what you wanted out of him like 5 years ago or so, but that game can still stay a while. Minkah Fitzpatrick, again, a deep lying safety out there, as long as he doesn't lose a step, he'll be fine.
All I know is this. This is going to be pretty bad. It's going to be pretty. They can't halfway this. Like, they can't do it no more.
Well, it always rains before the rainbow out here, so you'll hope for better days with that. But guys, we kind of talked about it before we came on air. We will be taking a break. We won't have a season in review podcast. We might do it later. During the holidays or something like that. Who knows? But thoughts on the season so far, they're obviously not good. We'll give it a grade or whatever it is.
F.
Yeah,
F. There's not, the offense is terrible. The defense is really not that much better. They got 3 sacks yesterday, but they haven't been doing really a good job, before that. Secondary gives up a ton of big plays.
So
Najee Harris.
I'm this group, so instead of giving you a grade letter, I'm going to give you a percentage. 55% E.
F.
E and F is the same thing in most of the Pennsylvania grading system, at least.
Yeah, it's an F. F.
Yeah, there's nothing. I'm with Brandon. There's nothing really positive to say. Like
highest grade you can give any of the players in terms of them. It's probably going to be Pickens. I'd say this B.
Yeah, it would probably be that. I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would say Minka, but I mean, after what happened yesterday, right now, like they probably have no Pro Bowl players, which is crazy.
none.
Fitzpatrick would be the guy if they had a representative at this point, with Miles Jack probably right behind him in terms of that. But in terms of the best defensive grade, I think you have to give it to Jack after yesterday. And again, he earns a B. Fitzpatrick went from being a B to like a C minus.
C plus.
Yeah. The lid's been kept on for the most part, aside from yesterday. The last 2 weeks were encouraging, especially after that, but they got blitzed around too much, and basically there's nothing.
Right.
There's nothing really else. There needs to be more splash plays, because right now this is a team that's in desperate need of that. So the problem is, unless he takes it back all the way, I don't think there's going to be a splash play that's completed by this offense. They're a better goal line team than they were 2 years ago. I couldn't trust them for anything. At least they have the horses to do that. But yeah,
But they don't have the line.
you don't need the line. You don't really need the line. You just need players that can push it forward. And
They can't even do that.
Kenny Pickett got 2 quarterback sneak touchdowns for his first ever run. That at least they figured out that jet sweep on the goal line, they can throw the ball as well with their wide receiver. So at least I'll give them that as a positive. At the very least, they can't screw themselves up on the goal line anymore. I expected, even with Najee Harris or Jalen Warren, that if it's on the 1 or within the 5, they're going to score somehow. They're not walking away with a field goal.
Right.
That's about it.
Yeah.
All right, so who's next up on the docket for the Steelers?
New Orleans.
6.
The New Orleans Saints. So it's going to be interesting to find a reporter on that, and we'll have that for you coming out of the bye. Until then, decompress, go watch some Penguins hockey, even though they're not doing well. Watch the World Series. I know the Pirates aren't very good ever, but still, it's a must-see event. And, of course, watch some basketball. It's good for you. Just don't watch the Lakers. Anyway, that'll do it for us on the Renegade Blitz. I'm Ty Polk. That's Chris Ward. That's Brandon Walker. We're out of here.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at @RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. Read articles on RenegadeBlitz.com. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. The Renegade Blitz podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you can listen to podcasts.